The moment his radio went silent for 37 seconds, everyone watching thought it was just a glitch. It wasn't. That silence was intentional, a response to a request Ferrari had no interest in honouring. Lewis Hamilton, the most decorated driver in Formula One history, had joined Ferrari to reclaim glory, but instead, what he found was something colder, quieter, and far more dangerous. In those 37 seconds, he realised what few ever admit publicly. The trap had been set long before he ever stepped into the SF25. And the most chilling part? It didn't require sabotage, just silence. This story isn't about team orders or bad upgrades. It's about invisible power, calculated manipulation, and the slow political asphyxiation of a legend. What would you do if everything you built, every lap you raced, was being used not to elevate you, but to erase you? Now imagine knowing, and still racing anyway. When Hamilton signed with Ferrari, it was marketed like a royal wedding. Photo shoots, interviews, even the Italian press sang his name. But behind the red curtain, Maranello had written a different script. Publicly, Fred Vasseur smiled and said both drivers would be treated equally. Internally, insiders whispered, "This is Leclerc's team." In early simulator sessions, Hamilton wasn't running the setups Leclerc had fine-tuned. He was running experimental configurations, some bordering on unusable. Meanwhile, Leclerc's car was being optimized for race weekends. Then came the test days. On paper, both drivers ran similar fuel loads, but telemetry showed the truth. Leclerc's loads were lighter, allowing better lap consistency and more meaningful data. And Hamilton? He was gathering test results for parts that wouldn't benefit him. That wasn't incompetence, it was policy. It was the opening move of a longer game. A lion had been invited to the Colosseum and handed a rubber sword. What happens when you realize you weren't hired to lead, but to protect someone else's crown? It wasn't a crash. It wasn't a team meeting. The moment Hamilton realized the setup was rigged came in silence, behind closed simulator doors. He'd requested a test on mechanical grip. Ferrari said it would be scheduled. It never was. Instead, Leclerc was granted immediate tests on aero balance improvements, another clue. But the dagger came when Hamilton reviewed session data. Certain runs, his fastest laps, were missing from analysis, gone, deleted or buried. Either way, the message was clear. You're here on our terms. In Ferrari, you don't need to be told you're number two. You feel it through delay, omission, and every polite, "we'll look into it." What broke Hamilton wasn't a dramatic betrayal, it was the accumulation of subtle ones. When his sprint win in China was followed by a disqualification and silence from the team, he stopped hoping. According to one insider, he just stood in the garage afterwards, staring, calculating, not at Leclerc, not at Vasseur, but at the system. That's when the fight changed. Not outwardly, internally. Because once you understand the rules are rigged, your only choice is to become the glitch. To the public, Ferrari's radios sound ordinary, but listen closer. When Hamilton is chasing Leclerc, he hears, "Manage tyres, think long game." When Leclerc is in the same scenario, push to target lap time. One is suppression, the other is permission. Insiders confirmed these phrases aren't just coaching, they're code. Strategically agreed cues used to shape a race without PR backlash. You don't need to say, "let him pass" anymore. You just tell one to cool temps and the other to attack now. It's brilliant, it's invisible, and it's been working for months. Hamilton's telemetry shows sudden shifts before every attack, tyre pressures subtly altered, brake bias adjusted, making the car twitchier mid-corner. Small enough to justify, large enough to destroy rhythm. After China, his radio became cold. One-sentence replies, minimal feedback. He wasn't just being managed, he was being isolated. Pundit Tim Coronel put it bluntly. He's not just racing Leclerc, he's racing a political machine. In this world, team orders aren't the problem. Team culture is. And inside Ferraris, Hamilton was being reduced to a number on a spreadsheet. Except this number had a memory and a breaking point. Fred Vasseur is Ferrari's front man. But insiders know, real influence lies deeper. A core group of senior strategists and engineers, loyal to Leclerc since his junior days, hold the real keys. They shape development paths, simulator priorities, and even briefing structures. When Hamilton arrived, he inherited a rotation of new engineers, smart but outsiders. Leclerc's circle, by contrast, was a fortress, long-standing staff, shared language, deep trust. During debriefs, Hamilton's input was often under evaluation. Leclerc's actioned within days. This wasn't about who had better data, it was about who had institutional gravity. Because inside Ferrari, Leclerc isn't just a driver, he's a political axis. A Leclerc championship cements careers, a Hamilton one threatens them. One engineer confided, "Leclerc secures our future. Hamilton resets it." The SF25 updates show the tilt. Every tweak benefits Leclerc's rear rotation style. Hamilton's requests, greater rear-end stability, often meet budget constraints. But those constraints vanish when Leclerc needs something. In racing, milliseconds matter. In politics, milliseconds decide your relevance. And in Ferrari, relevance is survival. What fans see in headlines isn't organic, it's engineered. Italian media is deeply intertwined with Ferrari's inner circle. At first, they celebrated Hamilton's arrival, but after the first few race weekends, the tone shifted. Suddenly, praise focused on Leclerc. Hamilton's struggles were magnified. Hamilton's still adapting as Leclerc leads Ferrari charge. All from sources Ferrari grants special access. One journalist admitted, "You push the narrative they want, or you lose the garage." After China, Hamilton's sprint win barely earned a headline. His GP disqualification? Wall-to-wall coverage. Subtle but effective. The message to fans: Hamilton is flawed, Leclerc is ascendant. It's not just reputation, it's leverage. Sponsors start asking questions. Morale in the garage tilts. One insider warned, "This isn't bad luck, it's narrative management." And Hamilton? He's no fool. His media presence has grown colder, sharper. Every press interaction now carries coded warnings. He's watching the walls close. But what no one expected was that he was already planning to tear them down. Hamilton may look trapped, but behind the scenes, he's turning the pressure back on Ferrari. Sources confirm he's bypassing traditional comms channels and speaking directly to top technical directors. He's begun consulting trusted Mercedes engineers for unofficial feedback, digging into setup anomalies and blind spots. One source revealed he's building a dossier, quietly, patiently. Because Hamilton's real power isn't just in his driving, it's in his voice. If Ferrari pushes too far, he can burn the entire narrative, and they know it. Internal debates have already begun. Do we maintain the illusion of equality, or risk Hamilton going public? Because if even one coded message leaks, a tyre management call here, a telemetry sheet there, the media storm would be nuclear. Hamilton doesn't need to shout, he just needs to leak. And in a sport where perception drives policy, Ferrari is walking a razor's edge. Leclerc's rise is their mission. But Hamilton, he might just become their reckoning. At Imola, it was all on display. Leclerc's radio buzzed with live tactics. Hamilton's was silent. His delta stagnated. His feedback ignored. In the paddock, no one said a word. But inside the helmet, Hamilton had already made his choice. He's George's. He's not playing Ferrari's game anymore. He's playing his own. His interviews are icier, his presence more elusive. The warm camaraderie of pre-season has vanished. What remains is strategy, silence, surveillance. He walks the garage like a ghost with a grudge. And for good reason. Ferrari didn't just hire him to win. They hired him to protect their own, and underestimated him in the process. Now the question isn't whether Hamilton will fight back. It's how and when. One well-timed leak. One explosive quote. Or one masterclass on track that exposes everything. Because when a line is caged too long, it doesn't roar, it waits, and when it moves, it doesn't miss. The golden cage may be closing, but Hamilton still holds the key. And if you think this story ends here, think again. The next chapters are already in motion, and they're about to get even darker.